Coming up with this topic, we've been talking about empathy a lot, love at work, compassion. So what do all these things have in common?
They're emotions.
Why, that's correct, Riley. They're emotions. And that's just what I'm going to talk about today. So the word emotions wasn't actually even used widely until the 1830s. People were saying things like passions and affections of the soul. It was crazy. But in the 20th century, this guy, Paul Ekman, traveled all across the world studying emotion and came up with 6 core human emotions: disgust, fear, angerness, happiness, surprise, and sadness. His theory stated that every single human experiences all these emotions the exact same way. But today that's kind of considered just a half-truth. Emotion actually varies across context, culture, and language. So what kicked me off on this topic was I listened to a TED Talk by Tiffany Watt Smith called The History of Emotion, who took it one step further, saying emotion also varies across time. Here's an example. In the late 17th century in Switzerland, a student 60 miles away from home started skipping lectures, got a fever, sores, prayers were said, he was gonna die. They sent him home to die with his family. But as soon as he was on that stretcher, on his way home, his breathing became less labored. And by the time he got to his hometown, he was practically cured. And that's when the doctors realized he was actually suffering from a very powerful form of homesickness. And a doctor at that time noticed this case and several others and named the disease nostalgia. But today, the word nostalgia means something totally different. Today, we use it to describe a feeling of loss for a time period, not necessarily a place. And no one has died from homesickness for about 100 years. This change where less and less people died of nostalgia seemed to happen in the early 20th century, probably because things like expanding railways, the invention of the telephones, and just a celebration for travel in general made the sickening of something familiar seem less ambitious. So over these years, we inherited a massive transformation of values, and that's probably why we don't feel homesickness as acutely anymore. Seeing these influences from time, culture, and politics help us understand emotions. We're able to rethink and reframe emotions to better connect with them today. But one core emotion that kept coming up in all my podcasts and TED Talks that used to mean one thing in the past and is something different today is, surprisingly, happiness. According to Tiffany Watt Smith, there's so much pressure to feel happy all the time that when we're not 100% happy, we kind of feel inadequate. And that wasn't always this way. In fact, in the 16th century, all the self-help manuals said it was important to get in touch with sadness and explore your emotions. So I started diving into this conundrum of happiness. And I got a book from Ryan titled You're Not That Great, and Neither Is Anyone Else by Elan Gayle that I found to be a more realistic view of happiness than most books today. People tout happiness as this ultimate goal in life, but really, it's just one emotion of the many that we feel. So to sum up this book's key message, somehow, somewhere along the way, someone convinced everybody else that happiness is the only emotion that matters. We became convinced that all these other emotions are just distractions from the one emotion that is most pleasant to us. But that doesn't just stop in our personal lives either. I read an interview with Susan David, a Harvard psychologist, titled The Fear of Feelings at Work. She argues that the idea that employees have to feel only happiness and positive emotions at work often results in organizational failures. What's clear in the research is that a workplace that helps people work through their experiences is going to be more effective. The tougher and not so pleasant emotions can help us be more effective thinkers, to dig into facts that may just go wrong, and to mandate that we should just be positive. Sorry, glasses need adjusting, slipping off my face. At work takes away from the idea that emotions have evolved to help us adapt in certain situations. We know today that teams feel safe enough. When teams feel safe enough to articulate frustrations and talk about discontent, they're actually the most high-functioning teams out there. So, I wanted to equip you guys with some ways from the lovely Susan about how to work through emotions effectively in a workplace. The first step is to show up. Facing your thoughts or feelings is arguably one of the most difficult things to do, but it's the most crucial in order to facilitate positive change. Accepting the difficult and positive thoughts equally in order to see them for what they are. The second, to step out. Step out is all about detachment, a detachment from your inner monologue, in order to see that they're just emotions, not you. To detach from them will result in you feeling far more autonomous over your actions and decisions. And by practicing mindfulness, it's the most powerful tool to achieve stepping out. It creates a space between your action and unaction and your reaction. And it can also help you learn to apply and to manage your emotions effectively through mindful thought and action. Third, give appropriate feedback to clear the air. I think Red Pepper gives us the space and sets us up with success through one-on-ones and plus deltas that let us talk about our feelings comfortably. So let's use this time wisely to grow together. And finally, moving on involves making small, deliberate, and purposeful tweaks to your mindset by practicing mindfulness, understanding your emotions, and the feedback that we receive. As emotional beings, we're able to adapt and evolve. Good on time, okay. So I know that emotions can be messy and complicated and multi-layered, but I hope these 4 high-level simplified steps will help you experience all the emotions at work. And finally, I'll leave you with this quote from that book by Elan Gayle. One emotion does not a human make. Whether you believe we were created and beautifully designed, or you believe we are all just strange-looking accidental meat sacks, there is no question that we have the capacity and perhaps even the responsibility to feel an unbelievable wide range of emotions. Happiness, sadness, joy, anger, fear, rage, bliss, grief, excitement, regret, anxiety, lust, nervousness, desire. These are all parts of the human experience, and they exist for very specific reasons. The end.